All right. We welcome you to our meeting, our regular meeting for Tuesday, December 6th, 2022. We welcome all of you here and all those that are viewing us on YouTube. Welcome, and we'll go ahead and get going on this. We will have an opening from County Executive David Zook.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will offer my opening remarks in the form of a prayer.
Thank you.
Our dear Father in heaven, we are indeed grateful for this beautiful day, for the opportunity we have to gather together to conduct the business of the county. We're thankful for the opportunities we have to serve and for this incredible community we are blessed to be able to be a part of. We ask that we might be blessed with wisdom this evening, that we might make the decisions that would be best for the people we serve. We ask that those who are part of our county family might be watched over, especially those who protect and serve in public safety positions. We ask a special blessing upon the firefighter who was recently injured, and that he might be able to recover quickly and completely. We ask a special blessing also at this time upon all those who serve in our armed forces, that they might be protected and be able to return home safely. Please also watch over their families as they're away. We're thankful, Heavenly Father, for this Christmas season, and we ask that we might be blessed with a spirit of forgiveness and peace at this time. We again thank Thee for this beautiful and bountiful land that we are blessed to live in, and we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Will you all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good. Thank you, Executive Zook. All right. Has everyone had a chance to review the agenda?
Madam Chair, I have, and I would ask to amend one thing on the agenda. 10A, to remove that from the agenda and postpone ordinance 2022-32 indefinitely.
So
And with that, I'd move that we approve the agenda with that.
I have another amendment to the agenda. I would ask that we delay item 6B until our next meeting. I had a conversation with Jess, and he didn't know this was going to be on the agenda until yesterday, and he wanted to have some time to be able to put the numbers together and things like that to present to us, to help us understand what this can mean for the county, and so I would ask to have that removed until our next meeting. And I also suggested maybe that he not attend today because of the possibility of questions and things and controversy that he may not be ready to answer, and so he's not here with us today at my suggestion.
I would not agree with that.
I would object to that deletion. I believe that there has been in the media reports, and if we are just going to present facts so that people know, it's better to do that sooner than later. So I would object to that.
I've spent a lot of time, Carl, putting together a presentation of the numbers, and I'd like to at least make that today. So if we want to amend it to not include a discussion, but I would like to make a presentation, because there's been a lot of things that the clerk has said that I would like to address tonight. I have spent 4 years on this council, and this is probably number 2 on the list of things that I've received feedback from constituents on, and constituents I've never heard from in my 4 years on this council.
That would, I appreciate that, but it's kind of unfair to present that without him here to be able to respond.
Have we had a chance to respond?
Here at my suggestion.
Have we had a chance to respond to his comments in the media?
Well, I don't know that we have a clear understanding yet of what his thoughts and
what's the reasoning what's the reason he's not here tonight?
It's because I suggested that maybe he not come.
I think that he could still present to us the following meeting, and I don't think that's a problem. That would give him more time to respond to what concerns may be brought up by council, and that seems reasonable to me.
Well, I will state, I feel like he has been treated with much disrespect over the past year and a half or so. And I think as a council, we need to be able to be a little open-minded in the things which he might have us say, or what he might tell us, so that we have a little better understanding and not jump to our own conclusions and start making accusations and things without him being able to respond.
Carl, I would like to, you say he's been treated with much disrespect. I would appreciate an example.
Well,
Let's not debate this here. We're talking
no,
about
let's
the
not make
agenda.
a big deal, but
What I
there
suggest,
have been things said here, but go ahead.
what I would suggest that we do, if we want to still go ahead and discuss it, I just would say that I would not be in favor until Jess is here and able to give his side of everything. And I think he's probably got some information that would share that would be beneficial for the county to hear, and maybe to take into consideration that we not vote on anything until after next week. And that way it gives everybody a fair case, and if you know, I'm always one who likes to be fair.
Can we update David Erickson on what we're doing?
Go ahead. David, we're looking at the agenda. There's been a motion to postpone 10A to a later date indefinitely. And then Carl, that was by Paul, and then Carl has made a motion to change 6B, discussion of county clerk auditor, to the next meeting. And he said that he had advised Jess not to be here tonight. So this is where we're at.
And Paul Burr asked that he is ready to give a presentation on his feelings. And so I made a comment, I don't know if you heard what I said, we want to go ahead and listen to it, fine, but I would suggest that we follow Carl's suggestion and not make any action on it until the clerk is able to share his ideas as to how this will go and what he's planning on doing and why he's doing what he's doing, just give him an opportunity to share. So that's where we're at now. Back to the chair.
All right, thank you. So,
Is there a second on Carl's motion?
is there a second on Carl? Well, first let's do Paul's.
I will second Paul's motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we strike 10A from the agenda and postpone it indefinitely. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, to Carl's motion, he has made a motion to not discuss 6B until next meeting. Is there a second on any of that?
Well, I'll second it just to see how the vote goes.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded that we strike 6B until the next meeting when the auditor can be here. There was also a point brought up that Paul has a presentation to present. Would that be agreeable to everyone to have that presentation given to us and then just go from there and move till the next meeting for any discussion?
Madam Chair, that's two motions, and
Okay,
maybe one would support one and not the other, so
okay.
I would ask they be taken separately.
All right. So, first one. Okay, the motion is there. It's been seconded. Okay, all in favor of striking 6B? Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay. So the nays have it. All right, and so Anybody want to comment or make a comment on the next motion that I presented?
State it again.
What I was saying that, I was going along with what Paul said. He said he has a presentation, and we all know he's worked on it and wanted to present it, and he would like to present that information to us with the plan that we would then let the discussion continue next meeting.
There is one question I do have on that. We do have a public hearing set on salary for next meeting. And that has not been prepared yet. And I would anticipate that in item 6B that we set that meeting last time. There might be discussion of what needed to be put into that ordinance. Maybe that doesn't need to happen, but certainly there needs to be some direction from council of what that ordinance is to say regarding this issue. So I think it's fitting to have a short discussion regarding that because we need to figure out what to put in that ordinance to propose.
Okay, is that is that another motion now? Do we have?
No, I guess I would object to your motion because I think that there is justification to have a short discussion based on what we set last meeting.
Comment? Anyone?
So can we have a motion that says we discuss it and hear it, but no decision is made until the next council meeting when we've had?
It's not on as a decision, it's only on as an item of discussion, so I don't think we
Okay,
could
then-
make a decision.
Then I don't know that we need to dance around a movement or anything else again, do we? Motion?
I guess so with that, with what Nolan said, I'd move that we approve the agenda as amended, eliminating 10A.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda as amended, omitting 10A. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay. All right, very good. We will continue on then. All right, has everyone had a chance to look at all of these minutes here? We're behind on getting our minutes up to date, and if so,
There was still 2 mistakes.
okay.
Find my paper that I wrote it on. Looks like let me see. Okay. The issue was on the October 25th and the November 8th. There's no date on the title, it just says 2022 on that top line, like the 25th and the 8th.
There's no date, just the
Yeah,
year?
just the year. I'm sure it's
Okay.
like a placeholder, right? And so I would move approval of all these minutes with that, getting that fixed.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve all the minutes with the, getting the dates on for October 25th and November 8th added to the year that's on there. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Did you have a comment, Janine?
Sorry, Madam Chair, December 1st minutes, I never received those. So you need to wait on those.
Okay. All right, looks like we are going to have to wait on December 1st. Thank you, Janine. All right, moving on. County Executive, do you have a report for us?
Yes, Madam Chair, just a couple of brief items. First of all, we had our employee Christmas party last week, and I just wanted to extend my thanks to everybody who helped with that. It was a wonderful evening, and thank you to everybody who helped make it a wonderful evening for our employees. Next, I just wanted to report that we had a vegetation management board meeting today, and just wanted to commend that staff for the work they've been doing. They monitored over 19,000 acres during the past year and treated over 4,000 of those acres for noxious weeds. They've been doing some really innovative things with partnerships with local schools, teaching students, using some different approaches with biological agents, and just wanted to commend them. I have their annual report. I'll just pass this down the dais, and if you'd like to skim through it and see some of the things that they've been reporting on and working on this year. Also wanted to mention that I received a call about a parcel of land in North Logan right next to the ice arena. As you'll recall, we surplused 4 lots across the street from the ice arena over the past year and sold those. I received a call about some interest in, there's a very small triangle immediately adjacent to the ice center. And just wanted to put that request out there that there's interest in purchasing that. I'm not sure if there's any reason why we kept that or if anyone's aware of anything. Just wanted to make you aware of that, and we'll do some more research, but if any of you are aware of any reason why we might want to keep that or if we'd like to sell it, there is interest in that parcel.
Piece of land is it?
What's that?
How big of a
I
piece
think
of
it's
land?
just over an acre.
I don't think it's appropriate to talk about that right now, because,
Well, yeah.
An executive session, Mr.
yeah, that's an executive session issue because of, basically it's code.
Well, there's no purchase request that's been given to us. There's just interest out there, so just letting you know that there's interest. And if the council's aware of any other reason why we wouldn't want to sell that, if you'd like to let me
There
know.
was a reason why we didn't sell it previously, and I'd be happy to remind the council about that in executive session.
Okay, thank you
I
very much.
think all real estate purchases and discussion always has existed in executive session in the history of this county.
The next item that I have is, I just wanted to give the council also a heads up that the Council of Governments is working on a transportation master plan being led by and assisted by our Public Works Department. We had a committee meeting yesterday working on that, and progress is moving forward very well with that project, and it will incorporate the transportation master plans and transportation projects from all of our cities throughout the county, and it'll be a great project. So I just wanted to let you know that project's moving forward. And then the last item I just wanted to mention, there was an accident yesterday in the north end of the valley that involved one of our fire engines, and a volunteer firefighter from Lewiston was injured in that. But I just wanted to commend our fire department, our firefighters, and the training and the techniques that they implemented yesterday. Were successful in turning that situation that could have been extremely dangerous and extremely deadly into something where there were simply injuries. Our chief was the first one on scene and immediately worked toward establishing a safe scene. And the engine that was involved in the accident was placed as a barrier between the accident and oncoming traffic, specifically for the purpose of protecting the staff and citizens on scene. And it did its job. That engine did its job by blocking an oncoming 1-ton truck that crashed into the engine. If that engine had not been placed there, we would be talking about something very different today. So I just want to commend Chief Hammer and all of the leadership in the fire district and the fire agencies for training and focusing on safety, especially scene safety. And that concludes my report this evening. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, Executive Zook. All right. Moving on to item 6, consideration of 2023 Sheriff's Office fee schedule. Sheriff, you have a report for us here.
I don't know if I have a whole big report. I think the fee schedule that I'm proposing I hope was put in the packets, that everybody had had a chance to see that before we got here today, maybe not. I'll pass this one around so everybody can take a look at it. It didn't change a whole lot from last year, but ordinance requires that I get the fee schedule that the sheriff's office does once a year. And I do go through and I do look at what the fees that we charge, and if some of them are state fees like sex offender registration, what we can charge for civil paper, what we can charge for serving civil papers, DNA, things that are required by the sheriff to do. Those are set by statute. The rest of them, as it deals with like grammar requests and photos and body cam videos, I did call around all the local agencies just so we're all kind of in the same ballpark on what fees we're charging to the citizens for the things that they come get from my office. So I can pass that one around if somebody wants to take a look at it. Oh, you're good. Other than that, the fees they didn't change, really make any changes from last year than what they were this year.
All right, do you have any questions for Sheriff Jensen? Anyone?
So you said you didn't change many of the fees, is that what you said?
Yeah, I cleaned them up so they're a little bit more easily understood, because it was like, well, if you get this many pages, it's this much, and it's 5 cents per page after that. I just made it simpler. The dollars are about the same. I just made it simpler to read and follow and understand. Just, as that's kind of going around, just some of the highlights of what those fees are. So just for the jail medical reimbursement things that are part of our fee schedule, that's about $34,000 a year in revenue to the jail. Our probation fees are about $51,000 a year. And the sheriff's fees are, I didn't write that one down, but I think they're close to $60,000 a year.
Is there, with the new animal shelter, is this list include any of those fees you'll be collecting on anything with that?
Yes.
They're on there too?
Yep,
Okay, great.
they're on the second page of that, and we haven't implemented those fees yet because we're not open, but that will
Yeah.
be, starting January 1st, that'll be the fees charged for the shelter.
Do you have a date yet for opening?
I'm gonna say January 1st now. We got the last piece of equipment delivered today. They're coming tomorrow and Thursday to do the installation, so then we're down to cleanup and some little final painting little things. So I think we can say safely January 1st will be second. I'm not gonna open it on New Year's Day, but January 2nd will be a good day to get that baby open.
And that's a Monday, isn't it? Is that a Monday?
That's the second week meeting.
I don't know, whatever
Okay.
that first Monday is.
Yeah, true, they'll celebrate Monday as the holiday.
But no, it's been a long project, but I think when we get it open, I'll certainly invite the council down to come take a walk through and take a tour. Between now and then, we plan to do some open houses for the public to come see it.
Okay,
But yeah, I think that was the last big thing we're waiting for, and it got delivered today, so
awesome.
it'll be good to roll.
All right.
And I don't need this voted on tonight if anybody hasn't had a chance to look at it. Next week's fine.
Is next week, okay,
It's
okay, very
not a
good.
big rush.
Thank you. Thank you, Sheriff. All right. Okay, very good. We will move on to 6B. And Paul has a presentation for us.
Just going to go to the podium.
Okay, thank you, Paul.
Project that up there. I'm going to start with a quote from John Adams. Facts are stubborn things. Whatever may be our wishes, our inclinations, or the dictates of our passion, they cannot alter the state of facts or evidence. Like most people that I've heard from in Cache County, I was shocked and dismayed with the announcement the clerk auditor was moving to part-time status after just running as for re-election as a full-time clerk and auditor. This presentation is going to be about 5 minutes and will focus only on facts. There's been much said in the media, and I want to make sure that the occurrences and accomplishments of the past 2 years and 3 months of the current state of affairs are accurately portrayed based on facts. Jess Bradfield was elected the clerk auditor in September of 2020. At that time that he ran and resigned his position early on the Logan City Council and resigned his full-time job in the private sector, the clerk's salary was $92,340. This was a public record and had been that way for the entirety of 2020. The 2020 budget for the clerk's office approved was $119,200. There have been no concerns over election performance in Cache County. There was no employee turnover concerns. There was no concerns with management practices or et cetera. My understanding, reviewing his campaign website, was that he was running on a platform to modernize the office. This is a copy of the conflict review form that all employees and elected officials sign when they join the county. This was signed 9/28 of 2020 by Jess Bradfield. As you can see, the second item from the bottom in step 3, it asks, do your outside activities conflict with your scheduled county duties? That was not filled out. Thank you. I wanted to go over the clerk's year-over-year budget increases. This is public record. This is in our approved budgets each year. Mr. Bradfield took office September of 2020. He submitted a budget to us in 2021 that was up 37% year over year. In 2022, he submitted a budget to us that was up 44% over the 2022 year. And in 2023, the budget we approved last week, it was up another 20%. The clerk's office has increased their budget 135% since Jess Bradfield's taken office. We have not underfunded him, and we've given him everything he's asked for in the clerk's office. Next page. There's been unprecedented election funding by the council. In 2021, we funded elections $746,400. In 2022, we funded $828,800. This funding includes renovations of a new dedicated ballot center. I'd like to thank the sheriff for, that used to be for search and rescue. That building was vacated by the sheriff's office, and we turned it into a ballot center. The clerk has indicated that his salary could be used for new elections equipment. As you can see, we just approved a 2023 budget and did not deny any requests for election equipment funding, and there are ARPA funds available to the county in the millions of dollars that could be requested for election funds if necessary. There have only been 2 funding requests that this council has ever denied from the clerk during his term. The first was $39,000 earlier this year in ARPA funds to instruct voters how to vote by mail. We declined that request because Utah's been voting by mail since 2013. I think the voters know how to do it. We just went through a vote, and they were very successful at that. The second request that we ever denied was $50,000 plus, depending on which presentation was made, for a voter information packet as it relates to the open space bond. We denied that because there was much funding left in the clerk's budget, the election budget of $828,000. There's still a lot of funds left in that budget, and everyone got their voter information packet. Next page. Full-time, part-time staffing increases. In 2021, the staff in the clerk auditor's office was up by 29%. In 2022, it was up another 11%. The vast majority of elected officials in this county have maintained their full-time, part-time headcount. And in fact, in 2021, the county itself was down headcount. Next page. Turnover in the clerk auditor's office. The last slide and this next slide are the only ones that are not public information but can be found. And I did not calculate these. These were done by our staff. Turnover in the clerk auditor's office in 2021, 60%. Turnover in the clerk auditor's office this year, 30%. That includes 3 election clerks in the space of 2 years. 2 of those were hired by Mr. Bradfield. 1 of them is leaving, and we will now have a hole in our elections clerk. There was also a settlement, $97,000 that we paid to the county related to that turnover. I don't know that this is the right time to move to part-time with those issues. Next page. Records issues. There have been many instances and many problems with records and meetings, but I'm only going to use one example. As recently as November 2022, the council had to correct prior minutes to make sure the vote that we took on March 9th, 2021 was included in the public record due to issues raised by our citizens. Next page. And this is the one that I think is most important because it was mentioned multiple times. And there has been many, many, many fights this year over salaries. But I want to frame this well so that there is no misunderstanding. When the current clerk took office, it was public record that the salary for that position was $92,340. A few months later, in January of 2021, he received a 5.6% salary increase. He received another increase effective July 2022, bringing that salary to $105,806. So in the space of 2 years and 3 months, he received 2 salary increases, one for 5.6%, one for 8.5%. Cumulatively, in 2 years and 3 months, receiving 14.6% in salary increases, outpacing inflation.
Thanks.
All those are very factual things, no personal issues at all. There are many adjectives that can describe these metrics and the current state of affairs. Efficient and effective are not among those adjectives. Now is not the time for him to go back on his promise that he made to Cache County residents as a full-time clerk and a full-time auditor. The people need to be represented. There are 3 positions he actually holds: clerk, auditor, and over elections. I know how many hours these council members work. This is a part-time position, and there's no way they do it in 8 or 16 hours a week. And we only oversee 1 position. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
I would like to add one fact to this as well, as there was some debate in social media that the former county clerk was part-time. She was not, and I double-checked with our HR department, and they confirmed with me that no, our former county clerk auditor, was never part-time. She was always full-time. I just wanted to make that clear for you.
Thank you. We wanted to do some discussion on this. Can we set our public hearings first and then come back to this? Is that all right? Okay, we're going to move down to 9A and B and C. All right, we need to set a public hearing for December 13th, 2022, ordinance 2022-28, comprehensive amendment to the Cache County General Plan. A comprehensive amendment to the Cache County General Plan, including the Regional Collaboration Plan and Urban and Rural Assessment, URAA/Cost of Services, COS, Plan Appendices / Plan Elements.
So moved.
Okay, should I read them all and then we can just, okay?
Well, these other 2 are actual hearings.
Oh, sorry.
That's the only one.
Okay. All right, there was a, so moved, seconded? Okay, very good. It's been moved and seconded that we set a public hearing for December 13th, 2022, ordinance 2022-28. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. All right, now we have a public hearing for ordinance 2022-33, Sandcastle Ranch rezone. A request to rezone 5.0 acres from the agricultural A10 zone to the rural 2 RU2 zone located at 420 South, 3200 West near Logan. And it looks like we have Mr. Watkins here to give us some information on that.
Yes, thank you, and good to be with you. For your consideration this evening is the rezone request for this property that you see located about 1.4 miles west of the Logan River and western extents of Logan city limits. This is a 5-acre parcel that is requested to rezone from A10 to RU2. It's located at approximately 420 South, 3200 West. Here's a closer proximity view, and you see the surrounding context is A10 agricultural zoning, but also some existing adjacent zoning in the R2 zone. just to the south, and those are 2 lots that are also in that R2 zone. And here's the site as it fronts onto 3200 West. Parcel analysis of the surrounding area shows that adjacent parcels with a home average 4.9 acres, noting that the 2 RU2 zone properties to the south with homes are on parcels of 1.88 and 2.85 acres. You see a variety of homes and average densities in the surrounding area. The Planning Commission reviewed this and unanimously voted in support of the rezone request, finding that the existing context with adjacent RU2 zoning was compatible for along 3200 West for an additional RU2 zone, rezone, and allowing for potential lot split from the 1 lot to the 2 lots, finding that this is appropriate context, and seeing a pattern of discomfort for larger scale RU2 subdivisions, but a comfort level with smaller infill RU2 rezones and subdivisions. So, any questions?
Any questions for Tim? Okay, very good. This is a public hearing. Oh, I'm sorry, David, did you have something? No, okay.
Public hearing.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone here that would like to address this issue?
Move to close the public hearing.
Okay, it's been moved, okay, moved and seconded that we close the public hearing on ordinance 2022-33 Sandcastle Ranch rezone. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. All right, moving on to C, Resolution 2022-32, approving the appointment of a representative to the Avon Cemetery District Board of Trustees. Anyone?
And the name of that person is
Yeah,
Michelle Watkins,
right.
Paradise.
Yes, please. And if you'll just state your name and then you can address this. Thank you, Michelle.
My name is Michelle Watkins. What else did you ask me to say?
Just go ahead and tell us why you want this.
Well, my friend told me there was an opening on the board for the cemetery district and asked me to apply for it, so I guess I don't.
So here you are, huh?
Here I am. I don't have too much to say about it, but.
Okay. Very good. Any questions for Michelle?
Am I to understand that, excuse me, am I to understand that you know how to dig graves and all that kind of stuff in order to?
I don't. I hope I don't have to do that, but.
Well, I think we went past that because now you can get a backhoe to come in and do it for you, but you never know if things get to the point where everything has no diesel fuel, then where people will keep passing away and we'll need to dig graves, and you'll be the
Well, I have.
one rally person.
I have a couple of sons that can help me with shovels. They're really,
It's good.
yep.
But we appreciate you wanting to.
That's right.
To help out in that. That's commendable.
Thank you.
Very good. Anyone else? All right, Michelle, thank you for coming. Okay, all right. Anyone else want to address this for us? No, you're good. Thank you.
Move
All
to
right.
close the public hearing?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we close the public hearing on Resolution 22-32, approving the appointment of a representative to the Avon Cemetery District Board of Trustees. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. All right, now if we'll go back to 6B for discussion.
So I do have a question for council.
Okay.
So that the attorney's office knows how to prep that ordinance that we have set a public hearing for on salary. Is there a number we're thinking of, or would we just prefer that it just says what all the salaries of the elected officials are and we can amend it at that meeting,
So,
right?
yeah, so I think it would just be amending, we already have an ordinance that sets the the salaries of public officials. It's 228,030. So it would just be amending the number in that for the county clerk auditor. My office is, after the last meeting, I kind of had the, I knew where the council was going with that, so I asked my staff and myself have looked through the code. The only code section that we're aware of that regulates the salary of county officers is 171614, which just requires a public hearing to be held prior to any change which has been set. I would advise the council that if any changes are made, the lowest you could go would be minimum wage. He'd still have to be paid the minimum wage of the state. But what that said is above that, I don't have any opinion as to that as far as it being legal. I think that's power that you guys wield. And so our office will help with whatever drafting you ask, but any other decision would be up to you.
Thank you, Dane.
And I neglected, I think, to say on there that everything that I presented was in the public record except for turnover and head count. And so since we will have a discussion and Mr. Bradfield will be here next week, he has a week to look at my math, which I've checked against the record. And if he has any concerns with that, I'd be happy to talk with him at that time or in between now and then.
Thanks, Paul. Anyone else have anything they'd like to state?
I know I'd had discussions with Jess as of late Sunday night, and he said he would be here to share what he kind of was hoping to share.
You missed, I talked to him today, and he didn't know this was gonna be on the agenda and enough time to prepare adequately.
He had told me that he was going to be calling you Monday morning.
Yeah, and
find out whether he needed to be here or not.
So I suggested that maybe he not be here this time, but wait till next week.
I did talk to him last night. I suggested that he be here but have a presentation ready to show to the council. And he told me he would get that ready either last night or this morning, but apparently it wasn't done, so.
So can there be identified, Mr. Borup, and thank you for that presentation. I appreciate all the time you put in that. I agree that we have to be careful as far as what we're doing on an elected official and part-time and everything else, especially on the part that says, are you going to be doing anything that conflicts with your job? I don't know if HR needs to address that as to what we're looking on this. Does that make sense? Because I understand that part-time and that other thing as far as elected official, and what Paul pointed out, he does have 3 very important roles. So as we talk about salary, but we also talk about that ordinance, that there's not a conflict on there. So I have some questions on that.
And if I can cut in, Amy reminded me, I think there is I think we need to notice up, also there's been a proposal for adjustment to the county council salary that was passed in the last budget last week. And so if this council's, I don't know if the council's already taken that under advisement, there would be a public hearing necessity for that and any other elected officials that, so I don't know if the council wants to discuss that, it would need to be noticed up for next week.
I think that when we noticed the one for next week, it was just in general, public official salary and not specific to any one office, so would that not cover it?
That should cover if it's general to all public officials.
And I think,
Remember, that's what we did.
I mean, we have determined, in fact, we voted not to increase our salary back in, it was in the minutes.
Right, what happened was Paul made a motion and I seconded it to adjust the budget, but then we actually never voted on it as a council and it ended up in the budget anyway. And we forgot that it was in there, so.
I think it's always been our intent, at least my intent, to not raise the council salaries.
So I think where there's been a motion and a second, and there's never been a resolution. That's something that can be voted on next week, however you're gonna vote on that, but having that, it's already, I think that's been noticed up previously, but now we're getting back to the action that's on the table, so. And then just referring, the part of that disclosure about outside conflicts, that would be referring to the County Employees and Officers Ethics Act. So there is an act that talks about those, what those conflicts would be in statutory language at the state level.
So just to be clear on the county council, Carl, we did put that in the budget. And I did make that motion going forward in 2023, so that no sitting council member this year would have received pay increase, and I've never voted for that. But that is at least in the budget, so as we debate it next week for both the council and other elected officials, that the money would be there and would be able to be appropriated. I think I've been a stickler on making sure that we didn't do things before we had the money in the budget to do them, so the money's there. That doesn't necessarily mean it needs to be spent. So thank you for the opportunity to clarify that.
Okay.
And I have a follow-up question on the disclosure document that we all are supposed to sign. Should we not make sure that we put if we have another job, we put it on there, even if we don't know if it's a conflict, it could potentially be?
I think the safe thing to do would be to disclose everything. I can't speak for why someone doesn't put something or why someone does, but that, just from a legal standpoint, more disclosure is better when you're talking about ethics.
Thank you.
Okay, I want to bring up a scenario. Let's say that the public official has this job. Okay, decides that's what he wants, this person, he, she, whatever, whoever it may be, wants to keep that job, and then resigns from the public office. If we were to lower that salary, what would happen if somebody else was voted in? Would we have to do a budget opening on that, or how does that work?
An ordinance.
An ordinance, okay.
Yes, so you've already budgeted for all of our public officials to have a salary next year. If someone, if there was a change to that, that money is still in the budget.
Okay.
How it's encumbered to pay is changing when we're changing a salary. There would have to be a change by ordinance, and that's something the council should keep in mind, that if you change elected official salary, that may have a chilling effect if we're trying to get someone in the future to fill that same spot. So the council need to be prepared to address that and in the timeframes that would be allowed by the statutes for replacing someone who did leave office.
Okay, thank you.
Barbara, to follow up on that question just for a little more detail, and I asked the county attorney to help me out with this. If we pass an elected official salary next week, say we lower a salary for an elected official, that elected official chooses to resign, and then there'll be a special election, and there's a time frame for that. If I'm looking just rough estimates for that special election, we're looking at least a month for that to flow through. Would that be correct? And as second part to that question, it'd be at least a month for that special election to go. For us to pass an ordinance to adjust that salary takes a week's notice, and then we can adjust it again. So we could, in theory, lower a salary and then increase a salary within the span of a month to offset that chilling effect that you just talked about.
Yes, so there's different timeframes depending on when a vacancy occurs. And I'm shooting from the hip here a little bit. I have looked at this code somewhat recently, and it's different for the attorney's office compared to other officials. But it's my understanding that if someone who's not from the attorney's office or the sheriff's office where it's a public safety leaves office, there'd be an interim appointment of their chief deputy. I think that part for the sheriff's office would be the same. And when there's more than 2 years before the next general, or the next county officer's election, then the county party would, of the same party of the elected official, would name an interim replacement. And then at the next general election, there would be a open election that both political parties could put forth names in an election, and the people would decide to fill the rest of that term. So it would be a 2-year term, and then they'd run again on the same schedule as the rest of the county elected officers.
Okay.
Dane, there are libertarians out there. Just, there could be 3.
Sorry, if we have enough for a third party run,
I think there are 8 of them in the county, but they might decide to run.
Councilman Erickson.
There is if we accept this part-time status, which apparently by statute, I guess we have to.
Yeah, yes, as the code's written now, it allows it.
Although it be wrong to the patrons on that side, to me, it's very wrong to the patrons if we don't adjust the salary accordingly. We have to adjust that. And that is by ordinance. And then it'll have to be by ordinance to readjust it when we have someone that, again, wants to serve the people. So, this has really put us into a predicament that it's just really, really interesting. And anyway, I think that it's something.
Careful.
He's saying careful. I'll be in the paper tomorrow. That's right. So I'm sure. But it's interesting enough that I was hoping that he'd be here, that he could say, okay, this is what he hopes to have happen, and he shared that, I know, with me, but I'm not going to share that because that's his business to share it. But that he'd at least bring some of that up for us to ask questions about. But right now, whatever we think that we're going to adjust, whatever we talk about right now, it doesn't mean anything until we know exactly, what his intentions really are. But his intention still should be to serve full time. Personally, I think it should be. That's what you were elected for, and tell your people that. Well, and there's the other offset that's kind of been bothering me, and it was brought up in this presentation, how we have increased his department so much. And now all of a sudden he says he can kind of just walk away, and everything will run because he has all these people now. So we're paying so much more here, and now we don't have to pay him. I hope that's not happening in other places in the county. It makes me worried that it is. That next thing you know, we have all these elected officials that maybe are just going to go part-time and just let these cheaper temporaries and stuff like that to do these things, and then have to answer for it later when the law comes knocking and say, hey, this wasn't done right, this wasn't done right. I think you need to be there on top of that every second. As an elected official, you need to be there doing those things all the time, and be available to the public all the time. I have heard a lot of negativity that way, in people coming in and going to some of the elected officials' offices and never finding them, ever. And that's a sore eye to us all as elected officials if we're not making ourselves available at all times. So.
To Paul's point, he said this was one item that he'd been contacted more, and I've had more comments myself on this very topic too. So it's a concern to our constituents in the county. So
Can I make 2 points following up on what Councilman Erickson said? The first one is that staff has increased, But an offset to that has been the turnover. While we have funded those positions, there's been a constant rotating door in and out of those. So it hasn't been consistent positions for people to be there and gain the experience. But even if that was the case, my second point would be this. This is more at the federal level, and I don't want to emulate them at the local level, but the administrative state is a huge issue. Administrative courts, this country was founded on representative government. And the people need to have access to their elected officials. We and all elected officials are the voice of the people. And we need to be available for them. I can go into any department, I can go anywhere else and talk to somebody. They don't have the statutory authority to be responsive, no matter how good our county employees are. They are not the elected representatives. And if we're going to turn this county over to an administrative state, as we've done at the federal level, I see some folks in this audience that love Mike Lee. Mike Lee's fought against the administrative state. It's not something I think we want to set up here. So I just wanted to point that out.
All right, is there?
No, I've always felt it's very strong that you should lead from the trenches. If you're not willing to literally be in the mud with everybody else, to be there with them side by side in everything, you're usually not a very good leader. And I worry that we've got a lot of turnover in a lot of our departments. I'm worried that we're trying to be absentee leaders, and it's causing a lot of disconnect. I'm worried about that. At least that has been shared to me by many of the employees. So.
Thank you. Along with that, Dave, I had a very wise father who used to say, don't give someone else a job that you aren't willing to do yourself. And I feel like that we need a full-time person in that office also. Any more discussion? Any other comments?
I guess if we wanted to as a council, it's a county code. We can change it. I mean, we could put on the agenda next week to strike it out so that you can't move to part-time, correct, Dane?
I don't see any reason why not. The county council, it's not, that's not part of our organic act. It's not, it's just a county ordinance that allows that. So I don't see any legal reason the county couldn't strike that from the county code.
Good idea.
Okay, let's put it on our agenda next.
I agree.
I agree.
And the size of our county merits the need for those full-time. And we're even seeing a full-time need for auditor. I'm starting to, worry about. So, I don't know. I think we need someone there that can answer questions and see things happening rather than I'll go look into this or let me find out, and not have those those moment answers when we need them. So, I think that would be very wise that we do that immediately.
I agree.
Dane, could you prepare us an ordinance for next week that strikes out that language?
Yes,
I can get back and forth with you just to make sure.
I can work on that, and I do want to just do a little bit of research on retroactivity of that, but from sitting here right now, I don't see, there's not when you're an elected official, there's not a property right associated like a merit employee, and county council can set those rules. You created that ordinance, and it's my opinion that you can take it away.
Thank you.
All right, any other comments?
I was trying to find, I'd seen that, and I was trying to find out the basis for that. And I talked with a couple other friends of mine through the state, and they said that a lot of them, they'll have them in their county's codes, kind of mainly for the size of their county, what the needs are of their county, or some changes that you know, they may share a clerk with other other duties and responsibility. It may be a part-time for that just because of the size of their county, but I don't think the size of our county would ever merit, you know, not being a full-time position. So at least that's what the people, that's what they feel like it needs to be. That's what they voted for. So.
All right, then, if that is all that we have, we'll move on. No department or committee reports, no Board of, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. No Board of Equalization matters. Moving on down to 10B, Resolution 2022-28, a resolution establishing county policy on supporting local nonprofit organizations, and this is the second amendment on this.
Yes, so we amended it first to add in that they were, that we were referring to 501c3 at Barbara's suggestion. And then in talking with our county attorney, we thought it best to remove number 3. And if you look on in your packets, that's the third page of the second amendment, which is red line, which shows the removal of that. We just thought that would be the best thing. So what it leaves then is what's on page 1 of the second amendment. So I would move to substitute Resolution 2022-28 second amended in place of the First Amendment, so that that's what we're considering. And
I'll second that.
And I would also move that we approve this, but that would be a second motion.
Okay. So it's been moved and seconded that we accept the second amended resolution of 2022-28. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, and then you had a second motion,
Yes,
Gina?
and then I'll move that we approve second amended 2022-28.
I've had, this nonprofit thing's been interesting for me. I'm going to make a wordy, before I make the motion. A lot of the issues that I have had over the past year regarding a lot of things came from started with the Utah Supreme Court decision that originated in Salt Lake County over nonprofit issues. So, been seeped in this issue for a year, not because of nonprofit issues, but now that's at the table. And I think that government can do a few things, and most things not well. And people should be able to self-organize in a lot of ways. If you look at how this county's and this country has been organized, it's been people, neighbors helping neighbors, people helping people. And I don't think it's a smart move for government to try to do everything. We have some wonderful nonprofits here. I think this is a great way to support them. And I appreciate, Dana, I appreciate you, I appreciate your office, and I appreciate the chance that we've had to work with you on crafting this. Appreciate your suggestion, Barbara, on that. It was a very wordy way to say I second this motion that Gina made.
Good. Thank you, Paul. Okay, excuse me, it's been moved and seconded that we approve and adopt Resolution 2022-28. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. All right, now moving on to 11, initial proposals for consideration of action. 11A, Ordinance 2022-33, Sandcastle Ranch rezone, an ordinance amending the county zoning map by rezoning 5.0 acres from the agricultural A10 zone to the rural 2 RU2 zone.
Madam Chair, I would waive the rules and make a motion to approve ordinance 2022-33, the Sandcastle Ranch rezone.
Okay, moved and seconded that we approve ordinance 2022-33, Sandcastle Ranch rezone. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
And that's by waiving the rules.
And by waiving the rules, thank you. Appreciate that.
I think you mentioned that, but
He did, but I didn't.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, he got it right, but I didn't. All right, ordinance 2022-36, an ordinance amending section 2.08 of the Cache County Code.
Okay, so this is something that I put together. You know, as council, we've talked in the past about concern of losing good department heads, and the need for department heads to have the experience and the knowledge of county function. And we have some really great department heads, and also the need for them to be more responsive to citizens. You know, in Cache County, in any county, it's unique in that many of our department heads are elected. And so we put together this ordinance. What it does is it allows the executive to have them serve at his pleasure. However, if any department head is dismissed without cause, they then convert automatically to a classified employee. They're no longer department head. They will be relieved of their duties to formulate and execute department policy, and supervise, manage, or direct the business of the department, but they become an employee at their same rate of pay, and they can stay in that department or be moved over. And any suspensions have to follow the performance improvement policy that's set forth in the county personnel policy as approved by the county council. I believe that this is a critical step to keep things functioning well in the county and to make sure that our residents are being served appropriately. I have a list here of county department heads that I'll pass on to you guys and how long they've served. I think it gives you an idea of what we're looking at with these folks. We have some that have served 17, 18, 13 years. Our lowest is a, well, this is funny, it has Dane Murray, but Dane, you're elected, so I don't know how that ended up on here, but you know, our lowest is about 4.5 years, or, oh, I'm sorry, 3.5 years. So, you know, it's, longevity is important, and that institutional knowledge is really important to keep in our departments. And so that is the purpose of this ordinance.
All right, thank you. Do we have any discussion on this?
I can see the benefit of this for recruiting. I actually called an individual who we were considering for a department head on a position, and they were hesitant of coming here because the fact if you move and pay all that money and get here and then it doesn't work out, put a lot of cost into something. And on the same flip side, you don't want to guarantee anybody a job for anything, but at the same time, you've got to accommodate them in what's been happening if you're trying to recruit and give them a place to work and compensate them for the move and everything else. So from a recruiting standpoint, I like this, and I like every one of these people who are directors. I don't want to see them face any issues without a little more consideration on it.
There is, oh, go ahead,
I
Paul.
was just going to say, I would agree, Nolan, and I think that that's the one thing, right? There's really no solutions. There are only trade-offs. And this doesn't address for cause, because if somebody needs to be removed for cause, that's still there. And then once they get into the merit system, if there are issues that are for cause issues, those are worked through as well. We have a process in place for that if we really have an issue. But this does give folks, it is a recruiting tool, number one, and number two, I'm looking down this list and I'm looking at some really outstanding individuals that have been with the county for a lot of years, and to lose that institutional knowledge and that performance would be a real shame.
All right, thank you.
There is at least one amendment that I need to make, because there is a word that we use the wrong word. It would be under C. I believe it's C. Let me look. It's where we say revert to classified, and it should be convert to classified in case they never had worked for the county before. Let's see. Okay, it's in
Yes.
C.
Third line down.
Yes, but the removed department head shall then revert to a classified employee. It should say convert. So
Okay.
I would make a motion to change that word revert to convert.
Second.
Okay. All right, do we have two motions or just
Question.
one? Yes.
Would that also be in page 4 that's in the red that we've got?
Yeah, it doesn't become the official language. That's just for you to know what was changed.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it is.
Third line down.
Yeah,
On 4, yes.
It would
Line
be.
3.
revert is there as well.
Yes.
Okay. Very good. So we have a motion that on this document that we change the wording of revert to convert, correct? Correct? Okay, convert on line 3. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. All right.
There's one more possible amendment that I'd like the council to consider. And let me pass this to you. And that is after we got this written, started thinking about this possibility. If a department head did not want to stay, if they were terminated not for cause, that they could get a severance package. So my proposal would be to insert as item D and then move the other letters down. A department head removed from their position without cause may choose to receive severance instead of converting to a classified employee. The severance pay shall be 6 months of their salary. Department heads who have been employed more than 10 years shall receive an additional week's severance pay for each year above 10 years that they have been employed at the county. And I did check that language with the county attorney just to make sure that it was good, and he said that was good. So thumbs up if we wanted to do that. So I don't know, council, if you'd be interested in adding that too, or just consider this ordinance as is.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I just wanted to add my comments if I could. I actually support this and think this is a good idea. As I was going through the election this year, the thought did occur to me, what if I were unsuccessful in the election, somebody else came in and wanted to get rid of or make changes with department heads. That was a concern to me as I thought about that, and I thought that's a very real possibility. I remember another agency here in the state where there was a new executive who came in and did just that. It actually happens at the federal level with the president, the governor, in cities with mayors doing that. So it's a common occurrence around the country in our forms of government that are similar. So I share the concern about if I were to leave and somebody were to replace me, whether or not they would have the same respect for and value for the department heads that we all value. And so I like this idea. I like the most recent amendment as well, or proposed amendment, because it would cause that new executive to have pause and consider what the cost to the organization might be for them to do that. With that being said, I do feel like there are a couple of things that maybe need to be fleshed out a little bit more. Not sure exactly where this person would go, what department they would be working in, what budget they'd be getting paid out of, what that process would be if they were to convert to a merit position. I feel like maybe there's a little bit more work that needs to be done as far as figuring out a position for them to go to. In my previous county position in another county, this was actually pretty common practice when new elected officials came in and people got removed from their position. But that was a really big county. We had 18,000 employees, and it was easy for us to find other positions. Well, it was still challenging. It was still challenging, but it was possible. for us to find other similar positions to move people to that were of similar pay and similar responsibility level, even similar skill sets required. We're a much smaller organization with only about 400 employees, and half of those being in the sheriff's office. So we're really talking about 200 possible positions to move people to. And with somebody having the salary of the department head, that's even more difficult to squeeze them into the department. So my recommendation would be that we take this to the Ordinance and Policy Committee and have a little bit more discussion about some of those details so we can figure out some proposed solutions to that. But overall, I just want to thank Councilmember Wortham for proposing this. I really like it.
You know, I appreciate those questions, but I think the whole point is it's got to be open-ended, because you cannot figure out a policy for every single one of those situations. So it's best to just leave it open and work with whatever situations arise, because the department heads are so varied. As far as budget, that's a good question. That would be the process, I believe, would then be to make sure that the council had in the budget for those changes, that money could follow the department head, or they'd have to come back to council and get an approval to put additional money in budget to hire a new department head. And so that seems rather simple to me, and I don't think that needs to be written down. I think we already have stuff in our code that addresses that process, and I would move to amend this ordinance to add in the amendment that I made, so that we can formally consider it.
I will second that.
Can I ask a question?
Go for it.
So the amendment, they get 6 months, but that comes after they have fulfilled section B, item B of section 1, is that correct?
Right, if they are terminated without cause.
Okay, so just clarifying that, and my point is if I was sitting here and got moved and I had this 6-month option, that gives me a choice.
Mm-hmm.
And if I wasn't liked or wanted in that place, I'd probably take my 6 months and go. So this helps on the amendment to what we're trying to do here, is the way I see it. So I like that point. And that part of the amendment probably leaves the situation that the executive pointed out, if that does come up, and we do have that. But I can't see this being used a whole lot. I hope it doesn't. It's just there for the ones we recruit or the ones that we have an issue. We've got some very good employees here, so I suspect we wouldn't have that problem. So I just wanted to bring those up in light of the motion in a second, so my apologies for that.
No, thank you, Nolan. Appreciate that. All right, it's been moved and seconded that we approve ordinance 2022, amend ordinance 2022-36 with this item that's been given to us from Gina. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
And with that,
Well-
Madam Chair?
Oh, go ahead, Gina.
I would move to waive the rules and approve this ordinance.
And I will second that. It's a red letter day. Everybody on this dais agrees. There we go.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we waive the rules and approve ordinance 2022-36. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. A lot of good work on that, Gina. Thank you. All right, moving on to item 11C, Resolution 2022-32, a resolution approving the appointment of a representative to the Board of Trustees for the Avon Cemetery District.
I would move that we accept resolution, that we pass resolution 2022-32 and accept the appointment of, I can't remember her name already.
Michelle Watkins.
Michelle
Okay.
Watkins.
Is on the Board of Trustees for the Avon Cemetery District.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we waive the rules and pass Resolution 2022-32, approving Michelle Watkins as a representative of the Board of Trustees for the Avon Cemetery District. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, Resolution 11D 2022-33, a resolution establishing a council special audit committee. Yes.
Put this together.
Okay.
As discussed with fellow council members. Purpose of this committee, it's a 3-member, or it could be a 2-member, but we have 3 members listed who have agreed to be members of this committee. The purpose is to work with the external auditors, including reviewing auditing approaches, coordinating the audit, and directing the external auditors for the audit, the special audit that we have put in place, which we are allowed to do under state law. And the committee members are to have access to county information as requested, and that they are to maintain communication with and report to the council chair. When the audit is complete, the committee will review the audit and help the county council interpret and understand the report. So the purpose really is to let the specific committee, which includes a council member, focus on this audit and get it moved forward and get it completed and make sure that it gets done. The members of the committee who've agreed to be on it are Paul Borup, Nolan Gunnell, and Alan Allred. Alan Allred is a local CPA, and I believe he is on the county audit committee anyway.
Yes.
Yes.
So that would be the purpose of this and what we're doing, and I would move to waive the rules and approve this resolution.
I will second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve, waive the rules and approve Resolution 2022-33, a resolution establishing a council special audit committee with members Paul Borup, Nolan Gunnell, and Alan Allred. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, very good. All right, I need a motion to move into the Board of Trustees, please. Oh, number 12?
Yeah, that is.
That is it.
That's where, yeah. We need to go into the Board of Trustees, so we need a special motion.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Service
yeah,
area.
yeah, sorry.
We've been throwing you off all night.
Yeah, I know.
So moved.
Okay, thank you. It's been moved, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded that we move into the Cache County Service Area Number 1 Board of Trustees Memorandum of Understanding between Logan City and Cache County Service Area Number 1. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, very good.
We're in there.
Well, we're serving as now the board of service area number 1. We had a presentation last time. By Mayor
Peterson?
Peterson. Really going along with what the memorandum of understanding is saying, and it's sensible. And I didn't see anything in here as I read through this to cause me concern. And unless somebody has something that I missed, I would make a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding between Logan City and Cache County Service Area Number 1.
I have a lot of questions. And I've also invited Mayor Peterson here in case you need to ask her anything, because she's kind of in the know of the new group. What's that new group called?
CWC, Cache Waste Consortium.
Cache Waste that's a tongue
Consortium.
twister. Yeah. I was curious. I thought we did away with the service area 1. Are we still function as
No,
that?
it's
Not
still
till
there.
next
Yeah.
June, I
Till
believe.
next
June
June,
20,
okay.
23.
June 23.
Maybe even longer.
We have 1 year, remember?
Okay, yeah.
I'm trying to understand what the purpose of this MOU is and why Logan City wants us to make a master plan, why we need to do some of the things here in this. I can understand a rate-setting committee, but I don't understand how much teeth such a rate-setting committee will have. Or it says that it's going to follow the rate-setting committee for Logan City wastewater plant. I don't know what the makeup of that is or how it functions either, so it's really not clear to me. And then I think Mayor Peterson had some questions as well, if the council would be willing to let her speak. Lindsay, do you want to? Well, you know so much more about this than many of us, self-included, so.
I don't know if that's true. I guess we've largely, as mayors, I'm sorry, is that okay?
Go for it, yeah.
As mayors, we've kind of, this has been mostly a discussion between the county and Logan City. So I don't really, I've read it for the first time today. I guess I just have a few questions. Like, I know that they discussed in the past doing this study, and that Logan City is willing to finance that. I guess I'm trying to figure out how that fits in with the timeline that the CWC is on, which is that we just got bids yesterday from private haulers and plan on interviewing those and selecting one in the next month or two. So I'm just wondering, is that, like, what would that cover? And I feel like I'm kind of coming in at the 11th hour. And again, I acknowledge that this is not really a thing that I'm party to, other than, I guess, technically we're one of the cities that is part of the Special Service District area. But anyway, that was one of my main ones, is, you know, kind of the function, like what are the parameters of that study, or what is the purpose of it? Trying to think, what else?
Well, I kind of had that similar question, because if I remember correctly, what I read in here is that this agreement would continue solid waste collection and transfer to 2025, and I don't understand how that can occur if we're losing the service area, and there's this other consortium, and then we have other cities that are doing their own thing, and that confuses me.
Yeah, and I know the 2025 thing was a courtesy. It was to say, you know, originally they gave notice as of, I think, July 1st of 2023. So that's a courtesy. They're saying, we'll extend it for longer, however long you need as a hauler, to find a hauler. So I understand why the 2025, but yeah, I'm not sure exactly how, I don't know how much communication there's been. And I know County Attorney's Office has been in talks with them, so.
Yeah, and if I can speak up, so our office has been meeting with Logan City. I know Councilman Gunnell, Councilman Erickson met with Logan City, and we've had some ongoing discussions with them. So the 2025 that's a date they put out there, but once we have a hauler in place, then we just need to give them notice. Some of the other things that are in here, and if the council's not comfortable, because I'm definitely not an expert on waste management, but I know I met with the environmental director for Logan City, Isa, and he definitely is an expert. And if I think there's some things in here, I can ask him if he would come present to the council. That might help answer some of the questions. I know Logan is anxious to get this in place. Some of the questions that we had just speaking with them is, will county residents still be allowed to make direct haul to the Logan City landfill? They've said yes, they're not going to get in the business of checking IDs when people drop things off at the transfer station. And so toxic waste, some of those things that they accept there, they're going to continue accepting those there, because they see the benefit of not having someone in Providence dump their oil in the Logan River, because they don't have anywhere to take it, because that ends up downstream in Logan City. As far as the master plan and some of that, that's something I think Logan City might be able to answer a little bit more articulately than I can. But this does put in place our use of the landfill. The rates committee on that, it will be based on tonnage hauled. And so as the county grows, our representation on that committee would grow, even to the point that our representation may outstrip Logan's representation on that committee, depending on the tonnage hauled from. And I guess we're gonna have the consortium hauling, and there's some cities that have decided to go on their own, so that they wouldn't be included in that rate committee, and they would have to negotiate their own rates. But for this MOU would put that in place where the county would have representation on there and have a say in the rates that the consortium is going to pay for the disposal of waste at Logan's facilities.
I could add a little bit of information on the waste management plan. Utah Code Section 17-15-23 requires counties to prepare a solid waste management plan. However, if we're contracting with someone else to provide those services for us, then they would be responsible for that. In the past, that's been Logan City, and so they've prepared that plan. So as soon as we separate, we're required to have a waste management plan.
I think on the funding that Logan City offered, that was in the initial discussions to say how it wanted to go. It's nothing we're obligated on, especially now that we're this far down the road. Is that clear?
And could you state that again? I'm sorry, I missed that first part.
There was talk about some money in here for a study. Logan City offered that in initial discussions when we were talking about this, and we hadn't come down as far as what we've come with the CWC. I don't believe we're mandated or have to do that. It was just something Logan City offered to see what would be best for the county and the cities.
That was my understanding when I attended that meeting. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was
It was
just
a
an
nice
offer.
by them,
Yeah.
but now that we've gone this far and Mayor Peterson has put so much work into it, I don't see that we would do that.
I mean, I think that there may be value in, just like talking about longer term solutions like transfer stations and that kind of thing. I think that that's maybe just something that the council will need to flesh out, is just see, is that study necessary, and is it, can we, because I think it was a sincere and genuine offer from Logan City to facilitate this transition. I think they want us to succeed, because I think they don't want to be in the garbage business. But anyway, it's just something that I think is worth just considering, even if after approving this, just going forward, maybe making a decision about the parameters of that study.
That's a good point.
Has the discussion of dead animal come to light as to whether they'll accept dead animals at the Logan landfill?
That was discussed, and they still will.
Yeah. Yes, they still will. I think they also intend to go back before planning and zoning for an amended additional, or
Conditional use permit.
Conditional use permit.
Yeah.
Excuse me, and for direct haul to the North Valley landfill, and doing so, that puts the whole conditional use permit. They have to argue the whole thing again. It's basically a new application. And I think there's some opposition in the north end that has maybe shifted, especially when the landfill's there now and you have to direct haul to the Logan landfill if you're a private citizen. So I think there's going to be some benefit to those on the north end, especially if they're in the agriculture business and they're direct hauling dead animals, not having to bring them all the way to Logan.
It's not one of the most pleasant discussions that you have, but it's a very important one, because prior to the landfill and the county going into it and whatnot, there was a lot of dead animals that were just dumped into streams and ravines and things like that. And that was one of the good things that happened when they were, they made it quite a stiff fine to be caught doing that, and then it caused the farmers to get used to taking their animals into the landfill, which is a far better place to dispose of them. And so it's an issue that should always be discussed, and I think it's really wise to open up the north landfill to the people in Lewiston and Trenton and some of those places, so they don't have to come clear down here. And so whenever we have that discussion, let's keep that in mind, and that should be an item to think about.
What does the direct haul mean? Is it just dead animals, or what does that entail?
Anything.
No.
Anything?
Yeah, always.
Always, okay.
Yeah, so, and that would entail if there's a construction site that wants to haul the garbage they've collected, that's me if I want to throw my garbage in the back of my pickup and drive it to the landfill and dump it off. So it's just people without a hauler picking it up and taking it for them, dropping something off at the landfill.
So,
Any other questions?
Dave, Mayor, Nolan, Dave, it looks like this memorandum of understanding doesn't really take effect if that bill isn't repealed, number one. Number two, this only lasts for 2 years beyond that, even if it is repealed. And then my question, so I just wanted to confirm those two pieces of understanding. My third piece of understanding, since we're talking about dead animals, we can bring up things that are not appealing. How do we get suckered in this? How does it go wrong for the county? What if the consortium comes up with something, we want to go there? Does this MOU handcuff us in any way for making a decision to go with something else?
Good question.
That is a good question.
I just want to know if it handcuffs us or not. I mean, you don't have to tell me the dirty details, but does it handcuff us where we couldn't make an adjustment within those 2 years? Is this just all upside for us, or is there a downside to this?
So I guess they're,
and I'll take a yes or no answer, and we can talk about the particulars, but.
I think you've identified a potential downside. We'd need to give them notice if we're going to be terminating collection and things like that. And then if the Senate bill isn't repealed, the revenue will come into the county, and we're just agreeing to pass that through to Logan City. So some of this is built upon a house of cards in a way that if one thing doesn't happen, it can make things more complicated. I think my opinion is the benefits outweigh the costs, but I understand the council's concerns there. And like I said, I think Logan City would be happy to come speak to this. I'm happy to talk to you a little bit more about some of these details if the council isn't comfortable passing it today.
If I can speak to that, the repeal or the amendment of the legislation, I think that's something, I think, of utmost concern to Logan in this agreement. And I know that the legislators, that Casey Snyder has always intended to repeal that or amend it. And my sense is that has served its function, which is to bring Logan to the table. So I don't have a lot of heartburn about repealing that. I think that's always been the intention.
But even if it is, there's still issues that could exist, or no?
You mean even if it is repealed?
If it is repealed, if what the mayor just told us, everything's fine, it gets repealed, are there still issues that would make us less nimble than we would have otherwise been?
So my opinion on this is it does make us less nimble because we'll need to give them notice, but it is a benefit to the county. It's a give and take there, right? But the other benefits that we're getting from this, agreeing as far as the rate setting committee and the direct haul and some of those things, in my opinion, outweigh some of that nimbleness. So we're giving up a little bit of our nimbleness, but the benefit to the county is greater than the cost of that.
Well, there are no solutions, there are only trade-offs.
Lindsay, do you know how soon it's anticipated that a new hauler would be brought in for the consortium?
So the plan is to interview them, I think, in the next week or two. Just kind of, we're meeting as the CWC tomorrow, so we'll kind of make some decisions at that meeting. And then I anticipate selecting a hauler at the latest in January. Just speaking with those haulers, they've said that in the RFP, we said September 1st as a target date for them to start. And then if they can do it sooner than that, great. So that's kind of just the timeline in my mind.
I want to know the downside.
September 1st, you said?
Yeah, 2023.
It's a good point. Are they gonna make anybody?
Yeah,
Send them a
there's-
notice to discontinue this, right? Because it's expected to continue to 2025.
Yeah, and I don't know, what's that notice? What's the term of that notice?
And I don't think it's in there, but I think think they asked that we try to give them at least 6 months.
Yeah,
And so if we're talking about September, if we're signing someone on, that gives us 6 months from
March.
to.
Yeah, and that, I think once we select a hauler that, I mean, I think we're both trying to operate in good faith, like that Logan City is giving us time, they're not penalizing us for going over that July 1st date, and I think we're trying to do our best for the sake of existing employees, and, you know, we're trying to also do that. So as soon as we select a hauler, there's no hiding the ball with that. We will tell them the plan. Paul, to answer your question, I think that the liability or the exposure that I think we all have is that rate setting committee is only as good as the control that it actually has. And so even though we're saying that we're getting a rate setting committee, I think the actuality is that Logan will retain the majority vote on that, at least as long as they haul the most waste there. And so I think it's been something that we discussed that, you know, that does leave some exposure, but it also exposes Logan to later on, once we start hauling more waste than they do, that then we have that balance of power. So that is just something that I think that there's always going to be risk in a contract. And I think, especially in this memorandum of understanding, that Logan bears some risks and so does the county. So, but that's one area that I think you should at least be aware of, there's some uncertainty there.
There's a question I have about that rate setting committee, because in 5.3 it says, parties agree the city's obligation to provide solid waste collection services to service area or any of its members is conditioned upon the city's ability to recoup all costs associated with solid waste services provided by the city, in addition to the city realizing a reasonable profit for providing these collection services. So at what point does that conflict with a rate setting commission?
Where are you on that one?
5.3.
So if I can speak to that's for collection. So once we start collecting and hauling the waste, that's just saying they're not going to provide the service of hauling for the county while this is going on if they're doing it at a loss.
So that wouldn't include us using the landfill?
No, that's for solid waste collection.
So until we select a hauler?
Yes.
Like in that interim period, if we were to say, never mind, we're not repealing that legislation, they're saying we won't extend the courtesy of continuing to haul when it's not financially feasible. Sorry,
Yeah. It's basically saying that Logan City's taxpayers aren't going to shoulder the cost of the county. They're not going to spend money. They're not going to do it for free or for a loss. Another thing that Logan City did talk to me about is once we have a hauler, there's going to need to be cooperation between our hauler and Logan City, because especially where we're kind of cutting up some of the county, it might make more sense for one of their trucks to pick up some of our waste rather than sending a county truck clear out there when it's already going to be passed by a Logan City truck on the way to the landfill. So there might be some cooperation there. So I think the nicer we can play with Logan City and we can get along, and I think I agree with Mayor Peterson. They're coming to us in good faith. Speaking with them, I don't see any intent behind any of this. I think they're trying to protect their citizens and provide a service to the rest of the county, and that's my opinion of this. And I would urge the council to pass it, but I understand if you want more information.
I think that's hugely reasonable, but since y'all are attorneys and I'm not, collection, can we make that a defined term? So, because I think Logan's concern is absolutely appropriate, but I'd love for collection to be understood to be collection, and I'm not collecting at the...
I think that's a term of art. Is that right? So that's because it's a term of art within the waste setting, that's clearly defined.
As long as we're confident in that, and they can't say, oh, we're collecting it at the terminal.
Yes, so...
And have that be, oh, we're doing it at a loss, now we're gonna, do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, so the term of art for actually putting it in the landfill's disposal.
Okay.
And so that it's laid out in there multiple times, the difference between collection and disposal. So I think it's a clear term of art that there's, at least legally, they're not going to be able to argue around and try to say, oh, we got you there. It's not collection, that's disposal, and try to renege on that agreement. So I agree with Mayor Peterson that I think that's clearly defined in its use within this MOU.
Yeah, and if I could just echo what you were saying, Logan City has been nothing but helpful in terms of giving us information. I don't carry the same suspicion that there's going to be a gotcha. I don't, because I think they've had chances to do that, to obfuscate during our RFP period, and they've been really just kind of bent over backwards when I've said, hey, can you give me updated can counts? They have it to me within the day. So I really do think that what's spurring this is that Logan doesn't want to haul trash anymore for the whole valley. I think that's the bottom line.
They're willing to haul trash, but like you say, not
For the whole valley, yeah.
They'll take care of theirs, and they even want to participate in transfer stations,
Yeah.
possibly, and that's part of the study.
And I can.
They were looking at maybe doing the study and say, well, even if we collectively participate in a couple of transfer stations, whatever, then maybe whoever is part of our RFP with changes, whatever it is, we can adapt to saying, let's take it to that point, and then maybe Logan City takes it from there to the landfill.
And on that point, talking to Logan City, their environmental director, he said if the transfer station at the Logan landfill ever becomes inadequate for its needs, they have room there to expand it. That would be their plan, to expand it. But at some point, the county might want to consider transfer stations as we grow. But right now, I think with the North Valley and the Logan landfill, that's already been handling the county's needs as they are. And the transfer station at the Logan landfill will continue to be available for Logan residents. So I think the transfer stations, from my perspective, for the county is quite a ways out before we need to start worrying about that.
One thing with trash, as soon as you get it right, it'll be wrong. Because you just never know the impact, the changes of, pretty soon, see right now, 90-something% of the trash is, we even think some recyclables, because we're putting them in the blue bin, they're just throwing them in the trash and they're going to the same place because there's no value.
Yeah.
But it makes
Except
us
that's not the case right now. Mountain Fiber is actually
well,
using.
Again, just cardboards and other things. There's not enough value to pull a lot of those things out. And since there isn't that value right now, they're just basically collected, put together. But down the road, everything evolves, everything changes, and so you've got to make sure that you have some sort of working group which has been set up, make sure that these changes, that we change along with it, to make things more effective. So this will be just the beginning.
And I do have one more piece of information. I'm sorry, it's kind of coming to me fragmented, but Logan is working on a new green waste facility out by their new sewer treatment facility. That will be open for all county residents. That's a benefit to Logan not to put green waste into the landfill, because then they have to do methane mitigation, which is expensive. And so that'll be a new facility that'll be opening up, I think, next year for green waste for the county.
And have they talked about offering the same rate for disposal at green waste as, like, for Logan citizens? And that's been mentioned in the past. I don't know if that's currently the plan.
I don't want to misspeak here. They're maybe rethinking their collection of green waste and how they're going to do that. So I don't know if they have an answer for that right now.
Okay.
I have 2 points. On the rate setting, when we initially met with Logan, that was a concern of everybody, and so that was why we went down this path. I won't say it's perfect, but unless you own the ballpark and the ball, you can't make it perfect. So, and then the other question was, I've gone through this, I'm ready to say yes, but Paul's question of the devil in the details, it's kind of like when you get married, you want to know the family you're marrying into sometimes. So.
How'd that work out for you? Like, there are a lot of surprises for me.
Pam, I'm sorry. She's probably watching this.
Just say fantastic.
Better than expected, right?
So, There's no edit here, so anyhow. Can you review this and give us the down points so that maybe by next Tuesday we can pass it, or is that a concern for you?
A concern for me?
Yeah, if we waited till next week.
No, this.
Yeah, this isn't my thing at all.
I just asked her to
But I would echo, like,
Well, but we all need to see it getting passed. I'm just wondering if there's a time frame on it.
I know Logan City would like to get it passed. I think they'd understand putting it off a week.
If you could read it and just say, hey, this is something that
And
you ought to consider.
yeah, I can definitely do that. I would put my microphone on. I reviewed it prior to this. I reviewed it with Taylor and weren't quite looking for traps, I guess, if that's the right word.
Not necessarily
might fall
traps,
into.
just understand the trade-offs, right? It's just
Understand
understand the trade-offs.
the trade-offs. So I can go through it again and
I mean, that's just my opinion. I don't know what the other guys say, but
more thorough analysis
Paul
of
had a
each
valid
point.
point there.
It is our job to protect the county, so we kind of have to look at it with an eye of, is everything in here okay?
Yeah.
And just my skittishness, I just had to sit through Sims a couple of years ago, so I'm just a little skittish, that's all.
Yeah, and I'm happy to do that for the council.
See, I know when Logan, the representative, I can't remember his name.
Craig Carlson,
When he
attorney.
was there, he had more questions than us.
Yeah.
About everything and didn't have a whole lot of answers. And so when he left, he had a big list of things, and I was hoping, did he ever get back to you, or did he send Issa?
So we met with both Craig and Issa and went through those questions.
So
with
all
me
those,
and Taylor.
we had a bunch and, and everything. I want to make sure that they were all addressed, so.
Yes, and I've tried to answer those the best I can today. I know the transfer stations were direct haul was part of that. The rates were part of that. And I think Logan was in the same position as the council is now at that point. They wanted to make sure they were getting it, they weren't falling into anything that would harm them. So I think they'd understand putting it off 1 week just for us to review those. I'm happy to talk individually too before that meeting with any of you. We can sit down and go through this.
Well, in our meetings, Logan's been very cooperative and helpful on that, so
I agree.
I'm not looking to do that, but I just agree that anything that could be a snag that we haven't really dug into or thought about, because, just to be careful. I mean, I'm not against anything on that part, it's just second review, and then I think a lot of work's been done into it. I know we've sat through some meetings on it, and I know county attorney's group's been office on it, so appreciate that, but just that second look might be good.
Okay, so we want to wait a week on this for a second review?
Bring back next week, yeah.
Next week? All right. All right, so thank you, Mayor Lindsay.
I asked her this afternoon, 3 hours ago, if she could come, so I just want to say a special thank you for
Yes,
coming.
thank you. All right, I need a motion to move out of the Board of Trustees.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we move out of the Board of Trustees. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Other business, outgoing council members open house, Tuesday, December 13th at 4 o'clock here in the county council chambers.
Can we put their pictures up on, Zoom, so?
No.
I see
Yeah.
a picture here, so.
And I tell you what, I'm
Make
disappointed.
into a wanted poster.
If it wasn't for Janine talking to my wife, I was out of that. And then she found out when Christmas vacation was, and now I got pulled back in, so it's gonna
I
be,
was just kind of hoping that they'd forget about it and we could just walk on out.
that's,
Right off
it
into the
is gonna be
sunset.
low key.
question, do you need more time?
For that?
Or is 4 o'clock?
Oh, that's a
No,
good
it's
point.
great.
An hour?
No.
Is an hour enough? Well, you have,
I was thinking 4:55. Actually works great.
an hour, is that enough time to then be able to get your eyes dried and then come to county council?
Or you mean their laugh lines left? All right, very good. Swearing in ceremony for the newly elected officials will be held Tuesday, January 3rd, 2023 at noon here in the county council chambers. High noon. All right, council member reports. Councilman Ward, we'll start with you. None? Gina?
Ditto that.
Okay.
Nada.
Paul? Nolan?
I will just say, as the council, we gave presents to the Planning and Zoning Commission. They were very appreciative.
Weren't they good?
They appreciate the support and acknowledgement and the fact that the council appreciates the time they put in there. So thank you to the council for
That's
doing that.
great. Thank you for doing that, Nolan. Yeah, so deserving. All right. And Councilman Erickson.
Well, I'd like to share that list of things that I wanted to share, but I chose not to speak of them, you know, as far as speak up about them, but I'm not going to, so I don't have anything.
Okay, thank you. And I have nothing to report either. All right, I need a motion to move into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's,
We need to say why.
okay. Executive session for Utah Code 52-4-2051A, discussion of the character, professional competence, or physical or mental health of an individual. It's been, I can say, it's been moved and seconded that we adjourn into executive session. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, let's go on.